Hello.
Hello, Ben. How are you?
Very good, very good. You got a shirt.
Yes, I've put a shirt on now. You see, I've got to look smart.
It's true.
Okay, so we've got 106 people and it's going up, so it's pretty cool. Hello to everyone who's joining us. My name is Duncan Bruce. I'm the alumni manager at the National Film and Television School, and we're going to start this regular session every Monday of having alumni on Zoom. And this Monday is Cinematography. And we're joined by Ula Pontikos, Stuart Bentley, and Benjamin Kracun. And what's really interesting about Ula, Ben, and Stu is they all graduated from the same year group. So you can see how they all developed and moved their careers forward. This is going to be led by you guys. So for those of you who've not used Zoom before, there is a Q&A function at the bottom. Feel free to ask any questions and we'll try and answer those questions as we go through. It's going to last about 90 minutes and it's just going to be a fairly relaxed chat. So first of all, I'll introduce you to the panelists. So Ula, do you want to introduce yourself?
What should I say? We've graduated. Hello, everyone. We've graduated, I think, about 13 years ago.
2008?
Film school. Pardon?
2008.
2008. Yeah, 2007, 2008. It's strange because I think the graduation show is in March 2008, and we all been shooting ever since. It's sort of the idea is that you come out from a film school and you work your way up as a cinematographer. So I used to be a camera assistant before I went to film school, and as Brian Tufano was telling us, assisting has been left behind, and we had to shoot and be heads of department. So I've been doing that ever since.
Okay. Stuart?
Hello, everybody. I'm Stu. Yeah, what more to add? We graduated from the film school a long time ago. Makes me feel very old, but yeah, we had a great year. So at that stage, there was only 6 students, so per course. So we had a group of 6 of us, and it was a really great tight-knit group. And yeah, I was probably the sort of wild card in that I'd never really been to film school or been really on a film set or anything like that before. And had mainly sort of just done skateboard videos and made my own films really. So yeah, it was a great learning experience for me. But yeah, we left, and I guess, you know, from there it's been a sort of, you know, not smooth trajectory at all, but it's been ups and downs for all of us. I think we've you know, shot various different things, features and TV dramas and commercials, music videos, and yeah, it's been great actually to have these guys as good friends, and you know, we're always there to sort of chat with each other and help and kind of offer advice to each other. So yeah, it's been good.
Thank you. Ben?
Hi, I'm Ben Kracun, or Kracun is how you actually say it, but I don't mind Kracun because that's what everyone's called me since I was a kid. But yeah, we were all in the same year 13, 14 years ago, and we're all still very close friends now, so that's good, isn't it? That's no. Yeah, my little bit of background, came a little bit from, I had done a bit of photography. I was very into film, so maybe I was going down more of the traditional route, and had made a few shorts prior to getting into film school.
Okay, cool. So basically, for those of you that don't know, Ula has very much started off in short films and television and has done major films, which include things like Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool. Stuart has done quite big television shows, including Humans, but also SSGB and Black Mirror. And he's got a film that will be out soon, hopefully, called Surge. And Ben has done very much more, I'd say, an independent film route and then gone into TV slightly, if that makes sense, because Ben has shot films including Beast and For Those in Peril, and he's got a new, it's a HBO TV series which is coming out later in the year.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, it was actually going to premiere tonight originally, so yeah, been put back till later in the year.
Okay, so my first question before we start moving in is, what kind of things had you done, and you've already kind of touched on it, before coming to the film school? So what level of experience, how did you first get interested in film, and what was your first step onto the film ladder? Because I know all three of you had slightly different routes, I think.
Mm.
So who wants to go first? Let's go to Stuart, because Stuart's is the funnest.
Well, I don't know if it's that fun, really. Like I say, came to it from a slightly strange angle, I guess. But you know, everybody's got their own way in, and it doesn't really matter how you get there, I guess, does it? In the end. But I was sort of obsessed with. Well, from when I was really young, I was always really into photography and drawing and art and stuff. So we grew up in quite a sort of creative family, and I got a skateboard when I was 13 for my 13th birthday, and was just obsessed with it, and that's all I did basically every day, and all day and all night and weekends, and just used to just do that all the time. And I really vividly remember my friend bringing a little, massive, weird, knackered old high-8 camera out with him. It was his dad's, and from then on, it was just like this obsession, I guess. And we just filmed each other every day and made really bad skate videos, sort of like VHS to VHS. And that just progressed over the years. And I went to art college and did photography. And then I went and did a fine art degree in Manchester. And all the same time was sort of making more and more skateboard videos. But the people I was skating with were getting better and better. And we were sort of starting to get noticed with different skate brands were saying, "Oh, can you come and film this? And can you come and film that?" And it was amazing times, really. I used to travel all over the place, and would be sleeping on floors, and it wasn't particularly glamorous, but it was an amazing time to just go and shoot. And I never really did it with the intention of thinking I'm going to be a cinematographer. I didn't even really know what a cinematographer was, to be honest. But I just used to film and film and film and film and make my own edits, and that slowly progressed into doing little jobs here and there. When a mate was in a band and they said, "Oh, can you make a music video?" Or somebody was doing some, I don't know, whatever clothing brand, and they were doing a launch and they wanted me to go and film it. And it just sort of progressed from there. And then I started trying to get more into film. And, I found it really difficult. I found it really difficult to sort of break into it. It was a long time ago, and I didn't really have any friends or family that were in the industry, and I didn't really know how to kind of get into it, I guess. And I remember doing a film for Red Bull years and years ago, and one of the guys that was on it said, "Oh, you should think about going to the film school, National Film School." And I'd never really heard of it, and checked it out, and then and that was that. And then a lot of my friends that were into skateboarding worked in production companies in London, and a lot of them still do. And there's a lot of people, directors, DPs, and all sorts that have come through that background. So when I moved to London, I was immediately kind of, although I was at the film school, I was actually shooting a lot of music videos and commercials and stuff as well quite quickly. So a lot of the friends that I'd met through skateboarding for decades had then been like, "Oh, you can come and shoot this little music video, and come and shoot this, come and shoot that." And next thing you know, it's like agents on the phone, and I was, left film school, and it all kind of snowballed quite quickly from there, really. And then that's that. Yeah. Sorry, I'm blathering on a bit, but that was my strange route in there.
Ula, Ben, who wants to go next?
Ula, are you going?
I can go next. It's fine. So you have to apply with a showreel to NFTS. So I actually wanted to do the right route. So you sort of go up the camera ladder. So you become a focus puller and an operator and then DOP. But I focus pulled for a friend of mine once, and I realized that I'll be really, really bad at it. So in between of my free time, there was a person in ARI who helped me out a lot, called Alan 5, and I've managed quite a few times to blag a 16mm camera from him, and just did lots of short films sort of with friends, and we created sort of little scenarios. So we were shooting as much as we could, and it was SR1. You couldn't really see much through the viewfinder, and they were just sort of like a small experimental films. Also, the thing which really got me to film school, I was at another school before. I was doing a degree at Ravensbourne, and a friend of mine was very good at the flame. So we did a music video for another friend of ours from Ravensbourne, where we've managed to blag a lot of 16mm from Kodak and the Super 16 cameras and a lot of lighting from Ari. And we did a music video where I remember I was asking Chris Menges, because I work with him as an assistant, whether he could advise me on my lighting setup. So I've managed to sit down with him somewhere in a cafe and said, you know, I'm going to put the lights in here and there. And he was like, oh yeah, this is going to be looking good. Then you just need to make sure that these might be really dark areas, and you have to use little lights to bounce up just to give you a right exposure. And really, it was I've learned so much on it. And my friend did flame for the music video, and I remember that's what impressed the film school. And aside from it, I also did lots of stills. So I was trying to keep sort of exercising my eyes, and shot a lot of 35mm. I mean, digital really wasn't an option at the time, for me at least.
Ben?
Yeah, I first went to Napier in Edinburgh because they had a film camera. I was at college, and a friend said, because we were basically just obsessed with cinema and films and watching films, discussing films, arguing about films, and probably like fell out with a bunch of people because of movies, you know, and it was an escape because small town Scotland, you can't do anything. So we basically were just, you know, I'd read, oh, they've got this film camera, and then I ended up applying to that course to use the film camera, you know what I mean? And I got really, at that time it was, I guess maybe it was quite free then, you know, we could just go in, we could take the camera home. It was an SR2. We basically 4 or 5 of us, 2 of whom still are now directors, doing TV, 1 doing film. You know, we were making each other's movies, you know, kind of without so much guidance, I would say, and they were pretty bad. You know what I mean? They're not like, but what it was, you know, you had to fulfill every role and do all these roles, and we all had to make a film. And then with that film, that got shown at Edinburgh and went to London, and it was there that someone had asked me, like, what do you want to do? And I said, well, actually, I just like shooting. Like, I went there to use this camera. I just want to like shoot stuff. And they were like, do you know about the NFTS? And that's when like I applied to the NFTS. But I didn't, to be perfectly honest, it wasn't until I was at the NFTS that I realized it could be like a career move. And it wasn't, I never really thought of it as any kind of, we just wanted to make films, and so you kind of try and work out like, what can you live like that? And then it wasn't until, that first step for me getting into it. I mean, there was one little digression because I did load on a movie in Scotland, and I realized I wasn't going to do that full route that way. I actually exposed the kind of film like that. So I had to walk on set and say, I exposed this kind of film. But it wasn't a short roll. No, I just like exposed one of them when I loaded it up. And I remember like going straight out onto set, and the first thing it was just like, I've exposed this kind of film. And then they were like, oh, thank you for telling us and all that. But I knew that I wasn't going to go the assisting route, if you know what I mean. So that first step, and I think, both came with the NFTS really. Okay.
So we've had one or two questions, so I'll try and bring a few questions together. So the first one was a question from Sharad, who asked, what made you take the leap of faith and do the cinematography course at the NFTS? Were you worried about job prospects when you finished? Anyone want to pick that one up? I'm guessing you're going to say all of you were worried about job prospects.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still worried about my job prospects.
Just gone down.
Well, I mean, I could talk a bit about that. I guess I just felt like I'd kind of got to a point. I was probably 25, 26, and I got to a point where I've been making films for quite a long time, and I just felt like I wasn't really progressing, and I was just I'd sort of flatlined a bit. And although I was you know, I was working in a skateboard shop. Actually, I was working in a skateboard shop, and I was also doing film stuff on the side. And you know, I was kind of paying rent, but it was just sort of scraping a living, really. And not that I ever really applied to the film school or got into film thinking that it was going to be a kind of financial move in any way, but I just thought I wanted to learn more, and I felt like I kind of flatlined, and I was always shooting sort of similar stuff, and I wasn't really progressing. And like I said before, I found out about the film school, and I'd also wanted to move to London for a while because I had a lot of friends down here, and I just sort of, I guess I just wanted a new challenge in my life, and I just thought I wanted to try and, you know, mix things up a bit. And I guess I didn't really think too much about it, to be honest. I applied for the course thinking that I'd never even get a look in, and then I got the interview and I was kind of blown away. And then next thing I know, they've offered me a place, and I was like, oh my God, okay, I'm actually doing this and it's happening. And what was the rest of the question?
So the question was, what was the leap of faith, but also were you worried about job prospects upon graduating?
Yeah, I mean, I think worrying about your job prospects is, I think everybody has that, whether you're a DP or a director or editor or, you know, anything, you know, wherever you work in whatever capacity, you know, whether you're a builder or whatever, and you just hope that those jobs come. But it's, unfortunately, that's one of the challenges of our job. It's intangible, and there's, you know, you can't create your own work. You have to wait for the phone call, so you have to do everything you can to kind of make that happen. That's within your power, you know. I mean, that's a whole other kind of conversation, but there is always, of course, a worry about leaving and not working. And I was on and off the dole. When I left the film school, I was working in pubs, and it's not like you finish film school and all of a sudden you're shooting. You know, it does happen to some people, of course it does. They hit the ground running, but it doesn't happen for everybody. So yeah, I think it's just, you know, being brave to take that move, to make that decision to go there, and then, you know, see what happens afterwards, basically.
Anyone else want to answer anything on that before we move on to the next question? Okay.
Well, I think the worry about how you're going to work with any vocational job is always there. But I think what is great about being in your 20s is that you have to try. You have to try to make it work and really believe in yourself and have a passion. I mean, obviously there is a financial worries that you do need to secure yourself within the two years of a film school. But I do think that if you plan all your life for next 10 years, you're just never going to get anywhere. You kind of need to take that leap of faith.
That's the time to do it in your 20s, when, you know, well, you might of course, but it's like, that's the time to do it. You know, when you're kind of free, you know, you've not got the kind of baggage around you that's going to weigh you down. I mean, you might have, but, you know.
But also there are supports and grants for people to try to apply for, I think we all got some grants when we were at the film school, and that was the lifeline, because you do not work when you're studying. You don't really have time because the course is so intense. So you do have to have a certain cushion and support network. But I think the film school nowadays allow you to do some film work, which will some professional shooting if you do have that opportunity, as long as you don't slip through your course curriculum. So that's a bit of a help. We weren't allowed to do that.
Cool. There are varying questions about show reels. If you've got any tips for building a show reel, or do you still have the link to your original application films?
My original application film was on a VHS, so I've tried to think where that is. A VHS show reel, unbelievable.
I don't have the original, I don't think.
No.
I do remember the show reel is, I don't know, because things change so quickly with all of the, you know, because when we were at the film school, I don't think YouTube existed and all that. We were still giving out show reels at the time, you know, on DVD and all that. But websites went up, and it was a very important, that was a very important, it did actually help out quite a lot. As much as people like, show reels are kind of frustrating because they're sort of, you could see them as kind of arbitrary somehow, but they were very useful in getting work when we left the school. I think my show reel, I would be like, keep it quite short, you know, like two minutes or something like that. Something that people are gonna watch quickly, see immediately, you know,
What I found was quite good was you know, especially with the show when you're starting out, is to have a bit of a variety of work on there. So you have maybe some landscape stuff or some product stuff, and try and mix it up a bit, so it's not just all, you know, tonally the same. So people can, I mean, the amount of times you would get a call where people would say, I've seen that job you did that's, you know, all about landscapes or all about whatever, and they basically want you to replicate that. You know, until you've shot that, they won't let you shoot it. So it's like, you need to have already shot this thing, whatever this is, and then you know, you get the call to shoot it. So you might find that if you've got a show reel that's got lots of different elements to it, I mean, you kind of want some level of consistency, but you know, it's got lots of different elements, then people can see that and say, that DP is somebody that is versatile and can shoot X, Y, Z, you know, and that's what we want for our next project. So that's who we're going to get, instead of something that all looks the same. I mean, that kind of worked for me, I guess, but I guess everybody's different.
But I do think that I take showreels a little bit the same way as editing your work as a photographer. So you take a session, you I don't know, you take about 100 stills, and then, for example, you make sure that 10 of them will go to the client. And I think showreels work around that sort of basis. They need to, the picking the shot is what actually defines you, what your taste is. So I think it's really important that the shots you are choosing in the showreel are the ones you are feeling comfortable with and actually give your viewpoint about your work.
Yeah.
Do you guys still have showreels at your level still? Do you still?
No, I mean, what I've sort of done, and a lot of us do, is I mean, I don't really do it anymore, but we'll do like cut downs. So you might do like a little cut down. So let's say you've done a TV drama or a feature film. Of course, like, most people aren't going to necessarily sit through hours and hours and hours of material unless they've already seen the series. But, you know, if it's something that they might not have seen, you might just want to do like a cut down. So maybe like a 3-minute sort of version. And I think it's like Ula says, you choose the scenes that you're most proud of or you're happiest with. And then that, you know, basically makes up the kind of cut down of the piece of work. But a kind of show reel, you know, lots of different shots, I wouldn't have anymore. No, I mean, I think that's something that's, I don't know, it's debatable. Some people have it when they start out. It kind of helps some people, and some people, you know, don't really like it, but difficult to say.
I found it was very useful for me, especially when I left the school. I actually did have a showreel on my website until like 2 years ago. And I got work from it, you know, random work from it. You know, I remember working for 6 months in India doing commercials because someone had seen a shot on that showreel and they wanted a specific, like Ula's saying, if you can put a little bit of yourself into it, a little bit of your eye, then people will notice. I know that's, you know, what that is and how that comes across is obviously an individual thing, but yeah. I think it's very useful for when you leave the school, that's for sure.
Cool, well, the questions are coming in thick and fast, so I think it's best to just keep going and answering them. So
Stuart's left.
Stuart's gone.
He doesn't like showreels.
It was overwhelming.
Too much pressure.
Charlotte Hurst said, were you already technically competent on applying? Based on Ben's story, no, is what I'm going to say. What do you guys think?
No, when everything at film school is super slow, and you also come in at various degrees of experience. So the first year, it's all about equalizing and making sure that everyone, it's a very democratic year. So you have to make sure that you're protecting each other's skills, and some will have a faster trajectory and others will have a slower one. But you don't have to have a high-end technical skills to apply. No, I think you just need to have an artistic viewpoint.
Okay.
Yeah, that needs to be the main thing, I think.
Let's have a look for other ones.
Lots of questions.
Okay, so let's do, what are the industry connections like at the NFTS compared to the course then and now? Well, you can answer then, and I suppose I'll answer now if you guys want to do that. That one's from Hayden.
Industry connections.
Yeah.
At film school.
I'd say they've increased, but see what you think.
What do you think, Ula?
I don't know, actually. It's hard to say. I think it's that what I've seen, the visibility of NFTS students is better now. I think there is more support, but I think it just comes around with the technology advancement rather than school itself. Simply, just so we're not sort of saying that now and then is better or worse. Is I think, you know, the flow of information and accessibility of people's work is more immediate with digital advances. So you can put your work immediately after you finish. Music videos having a new revival. You don't need to be terribly experienced. You know, music videos in 90s, not that we were studying at 90s, but music video in 90s were sort of occupied by a high level of practitioners. And I think, you know, we at the time when we were studying, the music videos weren't really that popular. They were sort of more, I mean, Stu, you know more. I mean, I'm tangling myself, but it just was a little bit of a different kettle of fish. It wasn't as popular as it is now. Now it's a great tool for showing your work, I think.
I mean, I shot a lot of music videos when I was at film school and when I left. Very, you know, incredibly low budget stuff when I was starting out, and it was kind of young junior directors that friends of friends and I kind of met up with and you know, established working relationships with and worked with for years after, and kind of grew together, which I guess is, you know, what you hope for as a DP in a way, is to kind of start that relationship and to kind of work together over, you know, and that happens to all of us, doesn't it? You get some directors that you work with for years, and then you get other directors that you might only work with once, you know. But yeah, I mean, I shot a lot of music videos at kind of weekends and whenever I could, really. And then upon leaving the film school, music videos, and that kind of led into commercials, because, you know, your name is someone in the production company saying, "Oh, so who shot this music video this weekend?" And they say, "Oh, you shot it." And then there's a commercial happening the next week. So they say, "Oh, well, let's get him in, or let's get her in." And, you know, it just kind of all develops from there, and it's just a kind of natural progression. And then once you've done one commercial, and, you know, somebody in another production company sees that, and then, you know, before you know it, you hope that that all just starts to kind of spread, really.
Did you shoot any music videos, Ben?
I've shot like 3 or 4, but not so many. No, I was doing a lot of shorts. I did like at the school. I was doing more short movies and trying to. I did do in the last year. I started to work because a friend I was at Edinburgh with, he got signed to Blink for commercials. So we started to do internal at the time. What were internal little 30-second pieces, which were basically corporate, but we made them into little commercials, and that really kind of helped in that sense. You know, that ended up becoming, the company were like, these are much better than our actual commercials, can you go and do the commercials? You know, that's how I actually started to fund myself making like the shorts and independent films at the time. But you know, because it's twofold, isn't it? It's like, yeah, like you say, you have to do it yourself. I think even if you're at the NFTS, even if it has a widespread now, you still have to kind of get out there and make it yourself, really, I think, for the people. But what is interesting is that the people in your class do become the industry in that sense. You know what I mean? So now we're 13 years on, and I've worked with 2 or 3 directors from our year or whatever. So it's like, we are the connections as well. So it's, you know,
I shot a film, was it last year or the year before, that Ben was supposed to shoot, you know, and Ben was all lined up to shoot it, and then the film pushed by maybe a month, Ben became unavailable, and I'd met the director at a film festival before, and we'd got on well. I mean, I got a call on the Friday, and on the Monday I was traveling up to Newcastle to shoot this film. You know, it's happened really quickly, or to prep,
Wow.
to prep. But it was, you know, and there is that kind of connection as well. So you'll find, and Ula, you know, Ula, bless her, was instrumental really in me getting TV dramas. You know, she started the show Humans, and I did the second block. And she started the show Glue, and I did the second block.
That's a complete
I just
coincidence.
followed Ula
That
around.
was a coincidence. That's not true. That's totally not true. The glue was, but the not Humans. Humans, you
But, you
got
know,
it.
we sort of help. You know, you all help
Coincidence.
each other, and you kind of. I mean, it depends, doesn't it, on the dynamic of the year? But I think we had a tight year group, and we've all sort of helped each other and supported each other over the years. And, you know, and it's the tough times as well. It's not always that we're all shooting, and it's like, you know, one of us might have a really tough experience on a film, and it's, you know, you're there to sort of talk to each other about it, how you can cope with that, and how you can move forwards from that.
We've helped each other out as well. That's like a network. You know, I've operated for you on shows. You know, you've come. I remember, did we not? Really early on, we went to shoot some band in Dundee. Remember that? Was that not?
Yeah.
You know, there's like many of those kind of connections that you only really get.
You came and filmed in the helicopter for me, and the.
Oh yeah, I filmed in a hell. I'm not doing that again. Strap me into a helicopter.
Yeah, that was fun.
But yeah.
So I think that generally answers it. I mean, we do have good industry connections, far better industry connections now. I think that's largely thanks to digital. It's opened up. Even over the last 10 years, the industry's opened up a lot more. So we do get a lot of support from ARRI and Panavision and other rental companies. So let's do some questions. I'm going to do one for Stuart. It's from Charlie. Stuart, where are you from? I sense a northern accent. Is that the case? How difficult did you find it to start to make work in the north? How much of the film industry is in London?
Well, I think it's changed now, hasn't it? A lot. I'm originally from Stafford in the West Midlands, just up near Stoke, but I lived in Manchester for a long time as well. And I think there's a very lively film industry now in Manchester. You know, they've got great studio facilities there and good rental companies and lots of great crew, and it's, you know, there's a lot of stuff being shot up there. But I think when I lived there, it wasn't the case, and I also didn't have the connections or didn't have the kind of the way into the industry then. I think it's changed a lot. I think when you're starting out, I do think being in London is fantastic for a young filmmaker, you know, whether you're a DP or a designer or director, because there's just such a huge pool of talent there, and there's so many different opportunities. You know, all the production companies are there really, and all the different, you know, obviously the film festival and all the different sort of cinemas and events that go on are really, you know, helpful in getting a, you know, step up in the industry, can be. But I think things have changed now, and I think, you know, you can find those opportunities in places like Manchester or Liverpool or wherever else you might be. I mean, the main thing I would say is it's just, you know, now obviously the internet is such a fantastic tool, and you can get your work out there really easily and spread it across the world, you know, and that wasn't there when I was a kid. It just wasn't there. So I think it hopefully has sort of made the film industry a lot more accessible for people wherever you are. I hope that answers your question.
Cool. Got a specific one for Ula now. Do you have any tips for balancing assisting work and shooting lighting on the side to build up your showreel? We all know working as assistant can take up so much of your time, so I struggle to be creative when I'm on a long job. And that's from Sebastian.
I think during the if you do have a long job, I don't think it's possible. I mean, I've actually talked to somebody from New York who she was a DIT and she was shooting with her friends in between, and I was so impressed that she managed to find time and a creative inspiration to sort of push it forward. And her short films were just incredibly advanced. but I do get that. So the times when I was filming, it was the times when I had time off. So in between of the jobs, because sort of there wasn't anyone to help me except we were sort of all doing. There was maybe 10 people max. So we were sort of doing things together. And for the couple of music videos we were shooting, we sort of had a producer friend. But it does, you inevitably you get involved in helping out and organizing the gear and blagging and crew and so on. So I think in between of the jobs is, for me, was the only time when I could have done it. So yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I don't really have much tips to do with that.
Okay, cool. Well, I think we'll take one or two more questions, kind of NFTS orientated, and then we'll move on to your kind of beginnings of your careers, if that's okay. So the first one is from Joanna, who says, could you talk a bit about how the NFTS impacted your creativity? So you might want to talk about what workshops inspired you, and is there anything that you managed to do or make at the NFTS?
Well, lighting was the big one for me, you know, having not really ever done lighting before. And it's one of those things where I'd studied photography, I'd studied fine art, I'd looked at paintings and pictures and films my whole life, but for some reason I'd never really sort of put two and two together. And then you go onto a stage at the film school, some fantastic tutors there, and they start lighting, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, okay, this is how you construct a scene, and this is how it all works. And it kind of really, you know, it really opened my eyes to that side of cinematography. Going there, it was like a you know, real revelation. So that was something that was really exciting at the beginning, and we did some fantastic workshops, you know, big night lighting, or, you know, all sorts of different things. Like we'd have different DPs coming in and showing us how to light a studio daylight interior, or how to light a studio nighttime interior, or big night exteriors, and all sorts of different challenges that you would find as a practicing DP. And we just, you know, cover those within the film school. So it's a, you know, really fantastic time for me.
Mm. I think to follow on from that, there was always the operating was also really, really good at this school. That was like when we did like 360 operating classes and things like that. And that's something that was just really, really useful when leaving the school, that you know, you were very competent at operating handheld or on the dolly or on, you know, and it's something that, because you'll probably be working in lower budget, it really came in useful, you know what I mean? I think at that time we had like Sean Bobbitt did the classes, so, and his handheld operating is pretty top. So, you know, we had, I remember those just being really, you know, just even how you stand, how you move, it's all very, you know, it's how it becomes a dance. You have to be, you know, you got to be a butterfly and you got to be a elephant at the same time. And how do you do that? How do you, you know, and that's sort of, I think that was kind of eye-opening, yeah. And framing, that type of thing, just to add into the heating. Of course.
And I think also just the creative environment of being together and talking about cinema. For me, that was, because as an assistant, I've never sat down with a bunch of people who have an outlook into world cinema that really open up, especially because I'm Polish, sort of they open up my eyes more into creative ways of expressing. And people knew Kieślowski and, you know, I mean, not saying that I didn't meet people who felt that way, but it just felt like a very creative and safe environment to share your ideas and discuss your work and discuss cinema, which for me, I kind of miss that collective get together now.
The Zoom.
Yeah.
Wonderful. The other questions, so there's a few questions about age range and diversity at the NFTS, specifically in your year group, but also just about how did you prepare yourself for graduating? So,
well, I think, you know, I think you preparing for graduating was a bit of a scramble, wasn't it? Because what's quite strange is that you go from being in this very sort of nurturing, safe environment where you can make mistakes and overexpose, underexpose film and not worry about the kind of implications of that, to then the kind of realities of being a professional DP where your mistakes are laid bare for everybody to see. And also, you know, we're all really good friends, but then as soon as you leave, you're in direct competition with each other. So everybody's sort of there's this sort of really weird dynamic where it's like, well, we've both been approached by the same director to shoot this thing, or we've both been approached by the same agent, and how do you kind of navigate that? So it's difficult. And of course, like it's really difficult when you're starting out and you hear that somebody's landed a big job and you've got £5 to your name and you've got no sort of way of imagining any job coming anytime soon, and you're like, why am I not getting picked to shoot these things? And you know, there's a level of self-doubt there and worry and stress, and it is, you know, and I think that continues throughout your career, unfortunately. And I think that's one of the challenges you have as a DP that, you know, the film school won't tell you, is that it is a very mentally draining and demanding job. You know, as every job has its own challenges, I'm sure, but it's something that you can't really, you know, you just have to find a way to deal with that, coping mechanisms to deal with the stress and anxiety of that. But yeah, when you leave, there is a scramble to get work, and it's like everybody's getting business cards. Well, when business cards were a thing, everybody's getting business cards printed and websites made, and you know, everybody's trying to scramble to get their work presented in a way that's like, oh my god, there's an agent coming to the screening, so we've all got to, like, you know, do our best. And well, I don't know, but yeah, it was great. I mean, we had the screening at the NFT, you know, the BFI at South Bank at the big cinema, and it was just mind-blowing to see your work projected on a huge cinema, and that was when things suddenly started to feel very, very real.
Nerve-wracking day.
I was there.
I actually sat next to my girlfriend, who's downstairs with our screaming baby, and we sat next to each other, and we never talked to each other, and I never even knew, and we just sort of smiled at each other, and then we bumped into each other 6 months later. So very sweet little story for you there.
Very sweet little NFTS story.
It is also a dating agency. That is, everyone should be aware that the NFTS is a dating agency as well.
Yeah, they've got their own app now.
There's been many alumni encounters. Let's put it that way.
Ben is one of many.
Yeah.
To answer the question on diversity in age, the youngest we take on the cinematography MA is 21, and we took a 21-year-old this year. And I think the oldest we've taken was a 48-year-old. So it's quite a varied age range. And I'd say the average age is probably around 30, but that's only a guess. Diversity, normally about half the class are from the United Kingdom and half are from abroad. They're all from very diverse backgrounds, and whether that's race, sexuality, or gender, but also income and background socially. So, and around 80% of people on the MAs at the NFTS get grants of some kind. So there's always financial support available. So it's quite a mixed group, quite a mixed bag. There's no one specific package of a type of person who will get onto the NFTS's cinematography course.
But also, I think diversity is really important, because the viewpoints, we're talking about it a lot nowadays, the viewpoints of the diverse viewpoints within the film industry is really required, because we do need to change the way how we're making movies and how we're crewing up people, and I think it's really important. And you know, please apply if you feel a strong need, and maybe there will be help with grants. It's definitely worth a try, I think.
Absolutely, please do apply. Never feel that you're not ready. Let us make that decision. You might be surprised. Okay, so this leads on to a question from Jelena, who asks, as a young and new DP, how do you go about looking for or working with a gaffer? Do more experienced crew intimidate you? So you might want to talk about when you first started out to compare to now, if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have a few bad experiences when you start. Well, throughout your whole career, I had a few bad experiences when I started with people that I mean, it's difficult when you leave because I always felt like a bit of a fraud. I was like, I'm a DP, but you're like, how can I really call myself a DP when I'm just a kid and I don't really, I don't really know what I'm doing. And that only comes with experience. You can have learned all these great techniques at the film school, but to put that into practice on a professional film set where there's a schedule and there's, the real pressures that you get on a film set. So, you want people to support you through that, and you need crew that support you on those difficult, challenging days. You need a good gaffer, a good camera team, and all that stuff. And it does take a while to find those people. And I definitely got, I definitely had some bad experiences when I started with crew that, weren't. You just want. I mean, for me, you just want a nice, polite. Everybody should just be nice and polite and friendly, and everybody's there to do a job, and you want it to be like a family. You want a positive, inclusive, warm environment. Yeah, you're there to do a job, and you're there for work, but at the same time, you want it to be friendly, and you want it to be a healthy, warm environment. And I definitely found that was the opposite when I first started. And there was gaffers or focus pullers that would really look down on you because you weren't experienced, and it's difficult to deal with that. But you find your way and you find your people, and it's recommendations. Ben might say, oh, I've worked with this great focus puller, or Ula might say, I've worked with this great gaffer, and you get them on board. I mean, some of the relationships I've got now with lighting guys especially, I've had for 10, 12 years. So you find your people, and if you get on well with them, then you hope you can grow with them, basically.
But I also think that I'm hoping that things has changed since we finished film school as well, within the sort of the way the working practices on set. And I think obviously it's really important that there is a mutual respect and there is no bullying on set. And I think if something like that does happen, you need to talk to the production and make sure that that this person is not behaving like that anymore. But finding your crew, mainly, unfortunately, for the film industry, is looking for recommendation of your friends. And I whenever I crew up, I ask people who I like and who I believe have similar work practices on set, because I trust their judgment. So I'm hoping that will lead forward to a kinder, more generous crew. And I think when you're starting out, you don't know everything. And I think you need to rely on people's experience, because the gaffers will work 3 times, 10 times more than you do. So the sort of working relationship is important, that you do have an idea what you want to do, but you also rely on people's experiences, especially at the beginning when you're starting out.
Ben, do you want to add anything before I move on?
What was it about? Yeah, I mean, I think, and there's a communication, even if you don't know, technically so much. I remember starting, and I had some, pretty heavy experiences and some very positive ones. And a lot of it is, even if you don't know exactly the technical term or what you're looking for, find a way of describing it or talking about it, and you find that people are quite receptive when they see your point of view. You know what I mean? Even if they are a very experienced gaffer or whatever. I mean, I have that now. I'll sometimes say, this is what I'm looking out for, and I won't know the exact. They might have more, and they'll have more insight into that to help you out. I mean, it's a very tricky, because there is also, I think there is a level where you kind of have to slightly earn your place as well. But that also comes, I think, from that being able to communicate. You know what I mean? I know when we were young, we didn't know anything. Are we DPs? Are we not DPs? I think, and you do, you just have to find that ground somehow. But it can be very tricky. And as Ula said, I think that's changing a lot for the better. There's not so much people who are just not keen to let anyone in.
I had a great experience when I was first starting out, and it was the kind of advent of digital cameras, and the Red One, this monstrous LED camera had just come out. And I remember going into the camera rental company, and there was a focus puller that I'd worked with a few times, and he was there with a couple of guys, and I walked in to look at it, and to me, a camera's a camera. It just looks like a bit of a box, I look at it, and this guy said, "Oh, you know, we should probably wait for a proper DP to come in and look at it." And I remember just being so heartbroken and just thinking, "Oh my God, what is this industry that I'm getting into?" You know, and just feeling so down in the dumps about it for ages. And you know, it is that thing where you, unfortunately, when you're starting, you're at the mercy of these crew, and yeah, you might find yourself working with someone who's really miserable and like an old experienced gaffer, and they just won't do what you hope that they will. You know, I want to do this, or I'd love to try that, and there's just no enthusiasm or energy for that, and it's draining. But then that's part of the job, you know. You're always going to encounter that, and part of the job is to learn to motivate people and to sort of try and get the best out of people, and you know, in whatever capacity that might be, but trying to find a way to get people excited to, you know, get onto set at 7 a.m. and put up the lights and not be like the grumpy, you know, spark or whatever. But that's a challenge, you know, for everybody.
I remember somebody told me at film school, just put the first light, even if you switch this light off, just put it somewhere, and then figure out from that point onwards. And I somehow used that as a way of lighting it. Sometimes you just didn't know because you were thrown under the bus, and you go, okay, well, we're not shooting this, we're shooting something else. And I, oh, well, let's put the light there.
The first commercial I ever did, I remember doing this commercial and being like, walking on set, and there was steady cam and this huge lighting setup, and just being like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, I was so out of my depth and just thinking, this is insane. And just sort of going into the bathroom and having 5 minutes and thinking, right, just turn some lights on and just pick a lens, any lens, just put a lens on the camera.
Just do something.
And then you do it, and then next thing you know, you're like, oh, okay, it's not that hard after all. And it's just, you know, and then it's kind of, it becomes muscle memory, doesn't it? After you've done it, you know, a few times, it's like now you walk on set and you don't even think about it. You're like, okay, let's just do this, and you know what you want to do because it's just, you've done it that many times. But when you're starting, it's that not knowing how to kind of achieve that look that you're going for, you know.
It's the pre-visualizing things, you know, when you're starting up, that muscle isn't quite developed.
Yeah.
So you have to try things out on set before they work. That's what film school is great for.
Okay, so let's move on to some questions. Dominica says, for Ula, speaking of grants, as an international, what is the best way to seek financial support to cover your tuition? Did you get any support from Poland, or was it all support from the UK?
I moved to UK in 98 or 99, so I was already a resident, and that was at the time when I applied was past Poland. Poland joined EU, so I was a resident. So I got grants from UK as a resident, UK resident. I think I was here for over 10 years by that time. No, I don't know, but I was long enough. I think 7 years was the requirement, and I fulfilled that. So it was UK grant. I'm not sure what is the support from Poland, unfortunately.
Cool. There's quite a few questions about agents. How did you get agents? Who are your agents? How do agents work? So if you guys can fill that in a bit, that would be great.
I was very lucky to get signed while I was still at film school. I'd shot, like I said before, I shot all these music videos, and there's a website called Promo News, which used to be a magazine every 2 weeks, and it was basically all the music videos, and it had the list of credits. And I think I'd been in it three issues in a row. So I'd had this, like, you know, I'd done a music video for a band called The Horrors, and I'd done a couple of other ones, and I just got approached by Wizzo and Co, by Lee, who's a fantastic agent, great guy, and he approached me, and I was at the film school at the time, and we were just about to have a graduation screening, so it was really good timing for me, because I said, I'd love to meet up, why don't you come to a graduation screening, and signed with them, and then quite quickly moved on, and over the years I've sort of, I left Wizzo. Anyway, it's a long, very boring story, but I'm now with Ellie Cook and the guys at Echo, who are amazing, and that works. Yeah, I mean, what should we talk about? The whole thing with agents. And I'm with UTA in America as well.
Well, do you find that agents get you work? Because I think a lot of people seem to think that once you've got signed by an agent, it's like a silver bullet and you have a career. When in actual fact, I would think only an agent gives you kind of a validation tick. You still have to go out and get that work and bring it in. It's not just going to be handed to you on a plate. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think especially when you start, that's definitely true. I think there's not like, but the validation is helpful, you know, that's something that, because like Stuart says, you leave and you're kind of like, am I actually a DP and those kind of things. So it really does give you a confidence boost. But I'd say that it's an exchange. So like I had a different experience. It was maybe a year after or a year and a half after, and I'd shot shorts, and someone had asked if I wanted to do a feature, a low budget feature, and then I was able to meet agents and say, I've got this low budget feature, you know, and then they were interested to meet me because they do the deal or whatever. I mean, I never ended up getting that feature. That ended up like, you know, but I was very close to or whatever, but that's how I met my agent. And the agent at that time actually said to me, you know, she was unsure about signing me. And she said, you know what I'll do is I'll put your reel around for a month or 4 weeks. And I got a call like 2 weeks later to do a BBC drama from that reel. And then she was like, oh, you know, I was always going to sign you, yada, yada, you know. But that job was horrible. That was like the worst job. But so it was kind of, I think there's a to and fro, you know, it isn't something it's not a silver bullet to begin with. Well, it wasn't for me either. And I think that, you know, I was building up the reel for quite some time, another couple of years, you know, shooting more and more drama. And then there's something on there. They can definitely open more doors commercially and television wise. I think that stuff helped, you know, they helped once that started to go, that they were definitely helpful there. Film wise, relationships are much more important, you know, if that makes sense.
There's a question from Andrew McConnell, which part of it you might not want to answer, but we'll ask you anyway.
Oh, God.
As established cinematographers, is work steady or do you have long periods in between jobs? And may I ask, what is the average annual salary of a cinematographer?
Well, Ben is absolutely rolling in it.
Untrue. What was the first part to the question?
As an established cinematographer, is there long periods between jobs?
I mean, there definitely can be. I think, you know, it depends what you shoot. There's a lot of people that shoot, you know, I think within our world, the three of us, we shoot commercials, TV drama, feature films mainly. And, you know, the hope is that you shoot a film or a TV drama or a couple or however many of those a year, and you fill in the gaps with the commercials, and you balance that quite nicely between commercials and film and TV. And there's this constant, you know, you're constantly working in those three fields. But, you know, there's some people that just work exclusively in commercials. There's some people that work exclusively in TV and film. And, you know, it depends. Like, some people are just busy all the time. Some people have peaks. Some people, I mean, I've definitely had really quiet periods. I've had periods where I don't get a minute to rest. And you know, Ula and Ben are the same. And I think we're all have these super intense busy periods, but then we'll all have quiet patches. You know, that's just inevitable, I think, while you're waiting for the film to happen, or you're waiting for the cast to fall into place, or the commercial doesn't work out for whatever reason. You can find yourself having these extended periods of time, which, you know, links back into that kind of mental health thing I was talking about. And also the agents, you know, that's when you want your agent to be supportive and helpful, and to hopefully try and get you, you know, more scripts or more meetings, or, you know, stuff to keep ticking over, basically. What do you guys think?
I mean, I don't have the same sort of commitments to babies, but I always try to do freebie and something low budget. I think it's always quite, if you do find yourself, I found myself last year in a sort of in between of projects, and projects went away, and it was sort of like a very bit weird, yeah. And so just whoever approached me, and I liked the sound of a project, I just did it, and it was fun. sort of keeps your creative juices going. But yeah, I mean, inevitably, sooner or later, I think everyone will find themselves with prolonged period of not working. And I think a couple of things I think is important to financially support, keep yourself financially grounded, and as have that cushion. I think that's unfortunately the freelance life, and especially now with the situation, I think that you just never know what's going to happen. You don't have a company which oversees your future, and I think it's always worth remembering that as a freelancer, you need to have a little bit of safety money and security money where you can actually continue living.
Just a note for all of you who are asking questions about how you find an agent, etc. Ellie Cook has very kindly jumped in to say that she's doing a Q&A on Edgar's profile, and she's put a link in the chat section at 3 p.m. So if you've got any specific questions and you want to speak directly to an agent, Ellie represents Stu and I think owns Echo. So Ellie is very much the lady to speak to. So tune in at 3 o'clock. Okay, so let's keep asking some questions. One for Stu from Trey. Does your background in skateboarding influence your filmmaking, and how so?
Hey Trey. Trey's a good friend of mine. And it was his birthday. It was his 21st birthday on Friday. So happy birthday for Friday, Trey. Yeah, it does, weirdly. I think what I really have enjoyed recently, and that's not to say that this is right for every project, but I've really enjoyed doing quite a lot of handheld work. And I think growing up filming skateboarding, you've always got the camera in your hand. That's the way you film skateboarding, you've got the camera in your hand. So all those years of doing it, and flying down the street backwards on a skateboard through busy traffic and with a skateboard, and there's this kind of energy and chaos to it. And I kind of have really enjoyed recently doing films and TV shows where you establish a 360 environment. So for those of you that maybe don't know what that means, you haven't got lights on the floor. So traditionally you might use a light quite close to your actor, but you would light in a way where the cast can go anywhere, the camera can move anywhere, and you might just use one big light source from outside or from above, and that gives me the freedom to move the camera wherever I want. And I really do enjoy that, because I don't like being, you'll find quite often when you shoot things, you've got lights and flags and nets and frames and this whole jungle of stands and things, and it's like your frame has to just be like this, and you can't deviate from that, because if you do, I'm going to see a bit of kit, I'm going to see a bit of kit. So it's nice to be able to, I find it very liberating to be able to kind of throw that around. And I guess that is in part of my skateboard background, is that kind of physicality and that kind of movement. And that's not, like I say, it's not right for every project, and I've done things like Black Mirror which are much more about that kind of lighting style and practical lights and dolly and track and Steadicam. But recently I've been enjoying doing a lot of that handheld stuff.
I'm going to move on to a question from Edgar, who asks, can you talk about each of your debut features? How did you get the gig? How did it go? Were you happy with the end result? Did it help you to get the next feature, or did you just bury it deep? It says, thanks guys, love you.
Buried.
All of the above.
Really?
No. There's so many questions there. What was the...
So, okay.
How do I get the debut feature?
What was yours, Ben? The Joker? Comedian?
Comedian. Joker, yeah. That was my debut feature. The Joker. That would be a good...
That was great.
The comedian. How did I get the comedian? At that time, something to just mention quickly, and it's like when we graduated, that was something that did kind of impact the industry, was that the 5D came around. As much as it was hated by lots of people, it was actually kind of a useful tool, I think, to get work and you could make stuff quite on the cheap. So that came directly, that came through my agent, that interview. So there you go. That is, and Tom, the director, had seen believe a short film I'd shot and write a short film I'd shot, and he was just interested to meet me. He was from the drama center, and he wanted to make an improvised movie, and he wanted to make it with as little as possible interference, like, and there was no scenes, there was no script, and there was no schedule as such. So that's how that all started. And I said I would do it, basically. It was actually, you know what, it was I kind of really enjoyed it. We made it over 2 or 3 weeks, and it was the first time that I actually, because there was so little, it was literally me, the camera, maybe one assistant, and it's where I got quite close. I worked out, the actor's process. I guess that was something that was quite, because at the film school you do a lot of technical classes and you've made shorts and things like that, but because it was an improvised movie, it was very much about the performances and the naturality, the authenticity of that. That's something that in some scenes, it was just me and the actors, and that opened up quite a lot of how you kind of work and behave in that zone. You know what I mean? So that was, to be honest, it was like, yeah, kind of invaluable for that. And it definitely, on the third, it definitely helped to get, I then shot Paul Wright's debut feature, and I wouldn't have got that if I hadn't have shot a film. So I knew at the time, when I went for the meeting with Tom, that I kind of really, I liked him and I liked what he wanted to do, but I also really wanted to do that picture because I knew that I wouldn't be able to shoot Paul's film had I not had a feature, because that often is the case. And it was low budget, it was a micro budget at the time, Tom's film. So does that answer that?
What was yours, Ula?
Well, mine was great. I loved it. I shot weekends, and we shot in I was waiting for the script for forever, and I think they approached my agent because of one of the short films I shot. It was regional, and I shot it in Derby, called Tender, and I think the producer saw it, and it was very handheld, sort of. The only cuts were progression of time. So we had 10 minutes plus takes with mainly 2 actors in a room. The crew was of 15. We had the first AD only coming for our big days. So we had ones in a Goose Fair in Nottingham, which we actually one scene only ended up from it. But that was pretty wild day because Goose Fair in Nottingham is pretty huge. And then there was another sort of day with extras where we had to, in a bar where we need to coordinate people. Otherwise, Andrew, the director, insisted that we will sort of do it all on our own. So it's sort of very coronavirus friendly. So we all sort of lived in a sort of crew of 15, sort of lived together, and maybe not exactly, but within the groups of 2 or 3. For the duration, and it was like a little bubble. It was very friendly. We got on very well with cast and crew, and it was super intimate. And it was probably the easiest and the nicest shoot I had so far. Not that the other ones weren't nice, but
Incredibly
this
well
one was just felt. Pardon?
Incredibly well received. It did incredibly well as a film, didn't it?
Yeah, but it just like, I think the love inside sort of followed through. It was a great script from Andrew, and we just all it just felt very intimate. It was a great first feature. I loved it.
Yeah. My first film was really good, and it was a fantastic learning experience, and techniques and things that I still use today. But it was with Ian Clarke, who we were at the film school with. You all know, and I'd shot his graduation film, and we got on really well. And I think it was maybe a year, must have been longer, 2 years after graduating, maybe even longer. Anyway, a couple of years after graduating, and it was a micro tiny budget film horror called The Facility, and it was sort of not too different from, well, I guess it was, but you know, definitely chimes with what's going on today. But yeah, it actually had a really good cast. It had a Noiran Bernard, who's in what was the one who was in? Can't think of the name. Huh?
Live, you're messing this up.
What was the film where oh my god, here we go.
Oh god, it's like a test.
I've stitched myself up there. Anyway, great actor.
And your agents watching.
Huh? Oh my god, this is it. It's a career ender right here.
It's never going to work with him again, that's for sure.
Dunkirk. There you go. He's the lead guy.
Not a small film then.
Not a small film. No, he's smashing it. He's absolutely smashing it. And it had Steve Yvette's in, who'd been in Looking for Eric. So, you know, I was really thrilled at the time, and I thought, he was great. We've got these proper actors. It's brilliant. I'd only done a few short films, and all of a sudden I'm working with the guy that's just done a film with Ken Loach. And it was good. It was great. It was really challenging. We shot in a, you know, however many days, very short amount of time, a couple of weeks, and it was sort of set built in. It was a hospital basically, so it was a set built into a kind of semi-derelict office space, and we shot it on the Sony Z1 EX1 or whatever it was called, that was about this big, and we had a movie tube adapter, I don't know if you remember those, which was about this big, and then we had zoom lenses which were about this big. So by the end of it, it was like
impossible.
With a rocket launcher. It was like this big on your shoulder, running around the corridor. And it ate about 4 stops of light, this movie tube did. So it was, you know, it was all wide open and rushing around, but it was really good. And it was, you know, it got a small release and it did a little run at festivals. And I think, you know, part of that process is just learning to deal with shooting over a long period of time and having the stamina and the energy and the kind of being able to prepare something for that amount of time, you know. And it wasn't necessarily about the finished product, but the things that I learned on that film and the process of it was so invaluable in a way that you come out of it and you think the final product might not be exactly what I wanted, but I now feel really comfortable knowing that I can shoot for 20, 30 days and I can prep that really comfortably, and I know how to deal with a crew of a certain size, and I know the different challenges that we've got, you know, that you might find yourself having to do on a feature film. So yeah, that was my first film.
Okay. We've got Louise Murphy who asks, what processes do you follow when prepping for a shoot?
Hello, Lou. Lou's fantastic as well. If it is Lou that I know. Probably. I did a film with Lou in Morocco. Ula, do you want to go? Anybody want to go for that?
I'm not sure what I understand the question.
So what processes do you go through when prepping for a shoot? I expect it's going to be different for each shoot depending on the director, but obviously...
I mean, I think in terms of script, you sort of, so you start with a script and you read the script, and first I read the script to sort of look at the emotional response, and sort of, that's pretty much, I mean, the preps really start from the first interview. So you start with reading the script. I read it before the interview, ideally twice. So the first time just to see the emotional response, and the second time maybe to create a mood board, which will perhaps I might or might not show during the interview, or I will follow up with the mood board after the interview, depending really how much information I will get ahead. And then from that point, when I actually get the project, I go through the script again to look at the emotional response and talk to the directors about that. So we sort of, it's more about prep in the generic terms. And then I will do a very complicated Excel spreadsheet, which will highlight all the technical notes, which will be divided into per scene, and it will have a number of bullet points of the things I need to talk. So it will be references, technical details, talk about various departments and to-do lists and things I need to discuss with the directors. You know, it will be a mixture of sort of Excel spread. That's probably where I would start. Anyone else want to add to it? It's such a big question.
There's so many tools now, isn't there? You know, you've got things like Artemis, the app on your phone, which is a viewfinder tool, and you've got Sunpath and all these things. So, I mean, I think a big part of it for me is obviously the things that Ula's discussed, and the kind of, you know, once you're on the job, there's all those discussions with the director and the designer and everybody, every department. But a big part of it for me is it's all sort of ethereal until you're actually looking at locations. Like, you need to see things, for me, you know, I need to see things in a location, and that's when you can start to kind of mold the scene and say, okay, this is where we're actually going to, this is where this scene takes place, and what time of day are we going to shoot it, what kind of look are we going to go for, what kind of, you know, what kind of atmosphere are we trying to establish here, and that's when you can really start to work with the different departments, the art department looking at color schemes, working with the lighting guys, looking at what kind of fixtures and fittings you want, or, you know, and that just becomes a process, and the script might change or develop, or things might happen that you're, you know, the location might fall through, so you have to then adapt that. I mean, I again,
or you have to film at the time of day you can't.
Yeah, and I think
you need to figure out how to shoot in the time of day you can't.
I was talking about this the other day. You know, the film I did last year, we had a you know, and this just shows you that you can prep and prep and prep all you want, but ultimately, a lot of the time for me, it's those kind of, a lot of the best moments come from things that are completely out of your control. We had a scene in a hotel room, and a guy dismantles a hotel room basically, and it's one of my favourite scenes in the film. And we had to find a hotel in Mayfair. We were shooting in Mayfair, and you know, it's very difficult to find a hotel with the right kind of high-end look that we could dismantle, and we've managed to find this one with a decommissioned floor. And I was saying, I want one north-facing that we can put light through from the other side, and had all these sort of grand ideas of what we wanted and what we needed. You know, we'd love a balcony above on the other side. We could put an 18K here, and of course, the day before, locations department say they've changed their mind. We've got to shoot it here, and this is what you've got, and what can you do? And anyway, we turned up on the day, and it was just the most glorious day. Low sun, streaming in all day, and you couldn't have lit it better. I personally think, and I love it. I love the scene. You know, it's fantastic, and it just shows you that, you know, you can plan and prep and try all these things, and then you get there on the day, and it's like, oh my god, look at this! It's unbelievable. Let's just shoot that instead, you know. And so, but you need to have prepped and planned to get yourself into that position. So, you know, you have to be incredibly thorough, I think, and very well prepared to be able to kind of deviate from these things.
Okay, so,
yeah, I would. Yeah.
Oh.
No, I think that's totally true. Yeah. It's sort of a combination, isn't it, of like being completely prepped and being completely spontaneous at the same time. You have to get to a zone where those two things somehow meet.
Anticipating what the director wants and giving them options. So it's like, you don't just go onto a set and say, okay, we've been on the recce and we've had our Artemis and we've said, this is our wide shot and this is our mid shot and this is our close up. You know, for me, you want to make sure that you've got a few other options in case something happens on the day, or the cast come and do a rehearsal and all of a sudden they're rehearsing on the other side of the street and you're like, oh my god, I've not planned for this. You need to try and anticipate those things in a way, and to be prepared for that, you know, and whether that's clearing kit or whether that's getting certain areas of a location secured, you know, and having those conversations with production beforehand, so that you know that if that does happen, then you're not going to be, you know, stitched up by it basically.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add to that is obviously the process is, you know, prep, it can be quite long and there's many technical things you have to think about as well. But I would probably, I always do a shot list, even if the director doesn't like shot lists or whatever. I would do that, you know what I mean? And whether I have it in my pocket or you look at it at the beginning of the day, at some point in that process, I start that, you know. And obviously more tricky scenes, technical scenes, stunt scenes, storyboards can be like really helpful. I've found that really helpful. So.
Cool, we've got limited time left, so let's try and do a quick fire round of questions if we can. So I'm going to start with, I think, Tyne, who says, have you ever experienced imposter syndrome? And if so, how do you deal with it?
Which syndrome? Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're starting out, you feel like the biggest fraud going. I did, and even though you've been making films for a long time, and even though you love it, and even though it's what you want to do. And I think that's the same in every career, isn't it? I think you get that with a lot of different professions, where you feel like, and especially stepping onto the bigger sets when you first start out, you're like, I'm not the person doing this, but it's just time and experience, and that sort of slowly fades away.
Okay, next question then. This is from Karen. I'm interested to know how the film industry is for a woman cinematographer. Are there any prejudices, and is it easy to get a job as a male cinematographer? And is it possible to balance a family life at some point as a woman in cinematography?
There's only one person that can answer this.
I think you know, you're a cinematographer rather than a woman cinematographer. I think you need to believe that you have it within yourself, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, I didn't look at the job that this is any different for women or men. I think that I treat myself as equal to anyone else, and I think I'm hoping that my jobs will be given to me based on my merit and my creative work. I think you do have a various level of prejudice sometimes from a crew. I think there are various support groups which help you to deal on day-to-day basis with if somebody does misbehave. But I do think that the industry, you know, the industry does give work to everyone, and I think I don't think it's a very gender specific thing. Regarding balancing work life, I think it's a very tricky subject. I don't know the answer to it. I know that there are lots of initiative about raising of sort of trying to bring the studios into allowing children to go on sets and actually giving a bit more equal opportunities to young mothers. I think that is a very valid subject, and I think things just needs to. I think I would like to see more women, or actually also it's you can be you can be a single carer as a single father as well, you know, and have a opportunities, have a sort of split custody over your children. I think it's not only female specific problem, and I think I know men who are single parents who have their children, for example, for 1 week or 2 weeks at the time, and I think it would be good to have more initiative from the film industry to allow parents to bring children to work. Unfortunately, that's a big subject.
Yeah.
Cool. Next question is from Nina. How do you approach coverage? Do you ever get safe shots?
Ben?
Never cover. No, yeah. Of course, that you're gonna, you know, depending on the scene, isn't it? I guess I don't like to call them safe shots.
Does everybody know
What's that?
What coverage, Ben? Does everybody know what coverage is? There might be people that don't know what coverage is.
Well, so coverage, for covering the scene, you're getting, you know, 2 or 3 or however many different angles on maybe a similar piece of action, or, you know, I think you start from your ideal and you work that way. I mean, it's a conversation with the director and yourself, and you know, it is an interesting one, because I'm not do you get coverage of sometimes? I wouldn't like to call it, you know, I think I have done TV jobs where, yeah, the old classic tale of like, let's get a close up here, or let's get a close up there, or we need this. And I think that, you know, can be disheartening. I would then try and, like, you kind of spin it the other way and you try and work out, well, okay, if I'm going to do that, then let's make this interesting. Let's make that the interesting shot. You know, it's not, so you don't see it, you know, it has to then, it builds into the form somehow. I would try and push that. you're always inevitably going to cover one point. And you have to be honest, during action sequences, I would suggest covering them. You know, during intense sequences with actors, if an actor's only going to do something once, if you have, I would probably say you should definitely be having more than one camera on this moment, you know, so that's a positive, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Okay. Dale asks, what has been the best piece of advice you've been given either from the NFTS or another professional while you were learning your craft?
I would personally say the best thing to do is just to shoot everything at all times. Just literally, just don't worry about the end product and just shoot. That kind of was what I did without having really been told it, and I think, you know, seemed to kind of work for me. I found something that I was interested in, which happened to be skateboarding. You might have something that you're interested in, which is whatever that might be. And just film it, and just, you know, every time you pick up a camera, you'll learn something, and edit as well. That shows to do a lot of editing, and that really helps you, you know, tying into that coverage conversation. It really helps you to understand what you might need, the shots you might need to construct a scene, and what you can live without, you know. So you say, actually, we don't necessarily need that shot. So I would personally say, if you're just starting out and you've got, you know, I mean, you can make a film, literally like a whole film on that, can't you now? So just make a film, just make, you know, set yourself challenges, make a film every day, or just shoot your friends doing whatever it is, or find something that you're passionate about and make a film about it, and just keep going. Don't worry about the end result, just enjoy the process.
Okay. Cool. Miranda asks, which contemporary director is really inspiring you at the moment? I'll give this one to Ula.
Oh, bum.
You love
I can't think of now.
What we talk about.
Oh man, you guys put me on the spot. I can't think of anything. I've just followed the lead and started watching Hitchcock, because Ben told me that he's watching Hitchcock, so I started doing that. So I'm in like 1940s at the moment.
I'm glad you're talking about contemporary there.
I will answer it. Can I think about it and then I go back?
Okay, you can come back on it. Okay, this one's for Ben. Sarah Fraser asks, have you ever walked away from a project?
No.
Great.
Never walk away from a project. Fully commit and go through with it and learn.
Okay.
Oh, I've got the answer.
Yeah.
I've got the answer. Two directors, sorry. Is it Julia Darkno who did Raw? I think it was a fantastic movie. First time director. And Josephine Decker, she's just coming up with Shirley, her new movie. Madeline was fantastic. So that's the two directors I'm very excited about at the moment.
Awesome, thank you very much. So this one's going to Stu because it's from Trey. Who are your photography, cinematic, artistic influences, and how do you incorporate them into your work?
Well, so many really. I mean, you know, you look at all sorts of different photography, don't you? You know, whether it's something very kind of studio based or incredibly specific lighting, like Gregory Crewdson, you know, who gets referenced on every single film or music video ever made. He's a good one to look at. Or something like street photography, like Bruce Gilden, you know, for the energy and the characters. I like Tom Wood is a British photographer whose stuff I really like. Does a lot of stuff in Liverpool, or I mean, there's so many. And I think, you know, you kind of, going back to that thing with prep, you know, when you're prepping a film, I like to get lots of references in from films and TV and stills photography especially, and compile that into a, you know, document, and you might even break that down into a scene by scene look, and you might only take an element of each picture, but you say, I really like the, you know, the composition in this one, and I really like the color in this one, and I really like the textures in this one, and you take those different elements and you kind of combine those, and that's how you can construct your look for that specific scene. But yeah, I mean, hundreds of different photographers and cinematographers.
Okay. So the next one's for Ula. This is from David. When it comes to narrative, do you push for multiple cameras on set?
It depends on the schedule. It depends on the director. It depends on the requirements. I think the last project which I was propping in New York, it was obvious that we were going to have a 2-camera shoot. I prefer single camera if the schedule allows it, but the choices quite inevitably come from the schedule mainly, and then the style of shooting as well. I think with 2 cameras, I think it's important that you don't always shoot 2 cameras. If you wanted to have an establishing long master shot, you can put the second camera away, or you can get them just to get the snippets. I think 1 camera would be my preferable when I operate, but it's not the rule. I can pretty much, it depending on the schedule and the budget.
Okay. Next one's Ben. So this is a question from James. Have you ever been on set and the lighting you planned out earlier did not work out and you have to start from scratch? And how did you deal with that pressure?
Oh dear.
That's a daunting moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that has happened. Yeah. And you have to kind of take it on the chin, maybe ask for extra time, ask for like, listen, this is how it's going to be, but once I've said it like this, we'll shoot faster, or, you know, and you have to work around that. But it can be, yeah, it's a daunting thing, but it's part of the job as well, and things don't always work out as planned. And if you can see, I guess if you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and there is like a way to make the schedule and not impact the day too much, you can push certain ways, or say, you know, I need 40 minutes. Let's, you know, you could possibly clear the set, and you reset it. But yeah, it's definitely come up.
Okay.
I think it come up to all of us at some point.
Yeah, it's
so the last question is kind of a big question, but I don't know if it's easily answerable, which is basically there's a few questions revolving around coronavirus and how do you think it's going to affect or change the film industry, and are you still getting any job offers, and how do you see the industry unfolding over the next year? Quite a big topic, and quite...
We're all on these sort of DP WhatsApp groups, and we obviously all talk a lot together, and we're in various different, you know, have a lot of these different meetings and stuff. And for me, it just feels like there's an awful lot of speculation and not really much kind of facts. And unfortunately, you know, the government haven't been particularly forthcoming with anything concrete. So who knows? I mean, I've had a few calls in the last couple of weeks for these sort of strange hybrid commercials to be shot at home, none of which have worked out. I've had a few calls about feature films. I don't know when they're going to happen. It feels kind of a bit too soon in the day to be talking about them, but people seem to want to be keen to be seen to be doing something. How it's going to impact the industry, I mean, it's going to change our working practice for quite a long time. I think there's going to be huge repercussions, and, you know, just we were talking about before, weren't we, the practicalities of, do you have to quarantine the entire working crew for 2 weeks before and after the shoot, and what are the cost implications and the time implications of that? I mean, it's enormous. So unfortunately, I'm none the wiser, and, you know, I'm just going to wait, but nothing work-wise is coming in for me, and I personally wouldn't really feel comfortable. I've got a young baby, and I wouldn't really feel comfortable stepping onto set unless I had some serious assurances that things were going to be handled really well. I mean, there's a horror story on this WhatsApp group before about somebody did a commercial yesterday, and they, you know, didn't have the right stuff, and they didn't have the PPE, and they didn't have anything, and it's just tricky.
I think there's the British Film Commission is gonna they're talking to various unions and guilds for advice about safe practices. There's a very detailed document. I've been sitting today at one of the back to meetings, trade union meetings, with very detailed sort of ways to move forward. I think the industry is going to change. I think I don't think it's going to stop, but I think we're going to be slower. And I think the one way of trying to figure it out is really how to protect ourselves. And that from the situation that we might, we have to shield people who we're living with. Maybe we would need to quarantine ourselves for 2 weeks. I think the granular details of what's gonna granules, that's what they're using for the articles. I think it's all gonna sort of come out, but there are actually industry ideas, and there's a lot of coming out at the moment from the Iceland or Ireland and Norway, which sort of become a basis of the conversations. There's the studios. I think Netflix is coming out with regulations which might publish, I think, next week. So I think once we get all this information together, I think they're working together with the for sure BFC is going to put the proposal to the government and saying that maybe that could be the document which is going to be moved forward. At the moment, there is an uproar within the industry and industry bodies to try to figure out the ways of how safely we can go back to work.
There's definitely a hunger for work. It's just, everyone needs to, safety's got to be first. So until that is sorted, it's a long road, isn't it?
Okay. Well, I'm sure we'll have you back and we'll find out what happens at the end of coronavirus. But I just want to say thank you very much to Ula, Stuart and Ben for joining me today, and thank you to everyone who came to the masterclass. We are recording this, so we will put it on YouTube for people who weren't able to get in. I hope you enjoyed it, and it will be one of many, and we'll be back next Monday with another one. So stay tuned for social media for details of that. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.